Hello there, and thank you so much for tuning in to Mood Food Series 1. And we have a special episode today, Racism at Face Value, Personal Experiences special episode. Hello, I'm your host, Jason Gordon. The views expressed in this podcast called Mood Food are mine and mine alone, and in no way do the opinions expressed represent the views, positions, or opinions of the Department of the Air Force, the Department of Defense, the United States government, including resources listed during today's podcast. Thank you everyone that's been downloading us and subscribing to us. We really appreciate that. Keep those reviews coming, and if you have any show ideas, email us at moodfoodpodcast@gmail.com. And please keep reviewing all the skills that we've been sharing with you weekly. I guarantee you, as you incorporate the skill set into your life, you'll find that it's a healthy part of your life and continue to feed your mood food diet with positivity. Today's podcast is called Racism at Face Value, Personal Experiences. And today I am super honored and thankful to have two special guests with me. Today I have my beloved husband and my coworker, Gabriel. And today I wanted them to discuss their experiences growing up as African American males in the United States, focusing on racism, stereotyping, and profiling and what that looks like. And today's format will be a dialogue, so nothing too formal. So Gabriel, let's start with you first. Tell us where you grew up and your experiences with racism, stereotyping, and racial profiling as a young African American male. And you know, and also too, I was going to share that if you have something that you would like to validate for when Othel is sharing, do that too. This is a dialogue back and forth for you guys to kind of tell your story that needs to be heard. That, you know, the news media will only report the deaths, unfortunately, that happen, but people need to see what it's like on a normal day-to-day basis in regards to living as an African-American male in the United States. So Gabriel, let's start off with you. Once again, tell us where you're from, where you grew up, and your experiences.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me very much. So my name is Gabriel Cyrus III. I primarily grew up most of the time like around the Georgia area, but I'm a military brat, so I spent some time like Virginia, Boston, like first 2 years of my life in Boston, Virginia, and probably like the next 5 to 6 years, and then Georgia, Germany for a year, North Carolina, then back to Georgia. So most of my views on this particular topic is from my experiences in Georgia, right? So there's a lot of racism, a lot of discrimination, a lot of prejudice that occurred in Georgia. For me in specific, my family is very kind and respectful, wanted to ensure that their children, my brother, sister, and I, had a joyful life, which we did, and a life that kept us away from the ghetto. As they grew up, part of the things what we learned growing up is, you know, if you're in the hood, you need to get out of the hood, right? Do what you can to grow up and get away from that. Not that people in the hood are dangerous people, because they're just as kind and respectful as everyone else. It's just a bad brat from the ghetto. Now, for me, again, I didn't grow up in the ghetto. I've known plenty of people from the hood, and I've known plenty of people, family members as well, that grew up in that environment. I've been there myself, so I'm not afraid to go there by any means, by any stretch. In terms of like the prejudice or racism that I faced, let's see, there's many stories. I don't want to hold up too much time, but one story in particular that stands out was when I was working at a movie theater in Georgia. It was Regal Cinemas. I live in a small town called Newnan, Georgia, predominantly a white town. And there's areas in that city that you know black people should not go to, right? Pretty self-explanatory. When you go there, you look, you don't feel like you're wanted. There's a vibe that you feel, a nervousness, an anxiety that comes along with it. Even with the police being present, majority of them, again, Caucasian, white, whatever the phrase is that people want to use with it. I'm going to say that when I was around, you see police show up, you immediately get this sense of anxiety. I don't have a criminal record. I don't have a criminal background. I'm a very well-spoken, well-educated person. Yet I still get those vibes as if I'm going to get into some sort of trouble, if I'm going to be put in a circumstance where I'm going to be murdered, or if I'm going to be incarcerated for no reason other than the fact that I'm black, right? And so, like, when I worked at the movie theater, I remember I was doing the Scott, what do you call it? Not the ticket booth, but ushering. But I had to tear tickets right at the front. And I remember this older white couple came, probably like they were like roughly in their 60s or 70s. So they had that old school, probably old school mentality. Don't know where I grew up at, but anyway, short story. They came. They gave me their tickets, and I went to go tear it to them. And then I was asking them. So it wasn't busy at all either. So I'd like to kind of be, open and make the mood a little light. So I was asking questions. I can't recall what I was asking, but tore the tickets down. Say your move's gonna be this way. Said, can there be somebody else that can take my ticket and direct me to go to a place? I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with you tearing my ticket. Okay, well, no worries. I kept it professional as I normally do, but like in the back of my mind, I was just saying to myself, okay, well, they clearly don't feel comfortable with me for any other reason other than the fact that I'm black. Because I said and did nothing that gave them the impression that I was going to do anything. Plus, I'm in uniform working at a theater, majority of white people, so I'm not doing anything that is out of the ordinary from what anybody else would do. And they pointed in a direction of somebody, one of my coworkers who were also white. And so I share that story right there and again, there's many stories that I have, but I'm sure our other guests as well has also. I'd like to kind of shift points to him and see some of his comments as well.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I'm emotional right now. I had no idea that you're a young guy. And so those old ideas, and I don't know if it's just I'm naive or just I haven't experienced that, and I can just only imagine what that feels like. I can't relate, but I can imagine what that had to have felt like. But kudos to you for keeping it together and for working through it professionally, keeping your professional demeanor, not giving them a reason to react even more worse than they did towards you. I'm sorry that happened. Goodness.
Yeah. And what I would say is, so I'm from the North, so my experiences, same thing, just maybe a little different, and it just seems like you get that, where, oh, you're helping me. Why are you helping me? And it's like
as if you're like less than and it's not capable of doing it.
Yes, exactly. I have plenty of experiences to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like I said, I'm from the North, so I grew up in Michigan. Same thing, your parents want you to be successful. They want you to do better than what they done. And we didn't grow up rich. We weren't rich. We didn't grow up in the projects. We didn't grow up in the hood. But we grew up in a nice neighborhood. My parents always made sure that, we worked hard for everything that we get and things like that. So, I've had experiences where my example would be at one job that I worked at while I was in high school, and so like it was a supermarket. I won't say the name, but if you're from Michigan or in that area, you'll know what I'm talking about, where they had different things in the store. You could be a bagger, you could be a cashier, and stuff like that. So while I was in high school, I wasn't old enough to be a cashier, but I could be a bagger and I could work outside doing carts and stuff like that. And one of the experiences I had with the job was, so, usually I come in about maybe 4, 5, 6, depending on what my schedule was. And while I'm there working, you would rotate. For a couple of hours, you may be inside as a bagger, and then you'll go outside and you bring in carts. And this is my experience, it seemed like I was always put outside, no matter what time of day I would come in. And it's like, okay, well, you said that everyone's supposed to rotate, but it seems like when I come on a shift, it's like I'm always outside. And one of the persons told me, well, I rotate everyone and da-da-da. And it's like, okay. So it's like, well, when so-and-so gets done with the break, then I'll have you come inside and you can bag. And it's like, okay, so 15 minutes pass, their break is over, and then you go back and you see that person that's supposed to be taking over for you outside is still inside bagging, and you ask, I ask, well, how come they're still in here? Oh, they're gonna come out there, and they just don't come out. And it's like, But then when it goes on day after day, you start to see that, certain people are not inside the store, they're outside. And that's one of the experiences that I've had. So.
Well, what about like profiling and everything? Because that is something that's a hot topic.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, profiling. Same example with being at that store. I have a time where I got pulled over by the cops, where they said it was I was suspicious. Why was I driving that car? I was driving, stuff like that, and it's like, what did I do that was suspicious? And then when
were you in a certain area of town that as Gabriel was sharing earlier about that, like you're not supposed to go to that side of town because people will start making assumptions and thinking those thoughts that would make them call the cops or feel insecure. Were you like in a certain area or?
All right, so that job that I was working at, yes, it was further out in the suburbs. And so to get to that job, I would have to drive. It was like maybe 10, 15 minutes away from where I lived. So it was in a different neighborhood where, I guess I would say it, where black people didn't live or where black people weren't supposed to be. And so, I've had that experience.
And Gabriel, tell me about your experience with the profiling.
Oh, man. The first thing that popped into mind was 2016 on July when I came back from here, California, and flew to Georgia at the time when my mom and my sister were residing. My brother and I both were military, still currently serving, and we planned a trip to go out there, spend time with each other for the 4th of July weekend. All week, I'm sorry. Spent 2 weeks there. So we went to JCPenney next to the recruiting center where we were recruited at. So we paid a visit over there to see if our recruiter was there. Then we went to the mall just because we wanted to go shopping. Wanted to spoil our mom and my sister. They, especially my mother, she was always there for us, providing us with food, and it's like my dad, but like we were my mom at the time. So we just wanted to spoil my sister and my mom. So we went to JCPenney, not dressed in any sort of demeanor that would give you the impression that we're some sort of thugs or some sort of gangsters, nothing like that. We weren't wearing any sort of designer shirts, any baggy jeans. I believe we were just wearing like plain, I remember I was wearing like a plain white shirt with some blue jean shorts on, some white shoes. But again, like none of us were dressed a way that would give you the impression that we're doing anything. So I remember we were going into the store, and then there was this white man. He was following. At first we didn't really pick up on it, but we kind of always stay vigilant. But I remember we were going to look at some clothes, try some clothes on. We liked the clothes, and then there was this white man, one of the ones who worked there, was looking at us. And so then we walked to another part of the store, and same thing happened. And eventually, my mom called him out. "Excuse me, sir, why are you following us?" And he kind of like fumbled on his own words, not necessarily knowing what to say. And then my mom didn't let us speak. Before she called him out, she told us, "Hey, look, I'm going to say something to this man. Don't say anything because I know you might say something that potentially you might regret, so just let me handle it." So we just stayed quiet, let her talk to it. Then we went and found the manager. The manager was also some white lady. Probably looked like she was roughly in her like late 30s or early 40s. And my mother was saying that, "Hey, look, we're not doing anything. This man, one of your employees, is following us around. We're not causing any sort of drama, no trouble whatsoever. He's following us all around the store." And my sons are they're both in the military, serving our country, and we don't need to tolerate with this. They wanted to come here to spoil us because they hadn't seen us in about a year, and they wanted to just spoil us, and this is the kind of treatment that we get, that your workers are profiling us. And the lady just said, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I apologize. I'll make sure that I talk to him." And My mom said, "There's no worries. Well, you all just lost that $300 because we're going to spend that here, but I'm never shopping at this place again." And to this day, we have never gone back. Now, I'm personally a fan of JCPenney, and that was just one occurrence. That I'm sure many people in America, in particular Black people, encounter, right? Black men or Black women, Black children, Black elders. This is not I'm somebody who supports equality in any form, whether it's racial or whether it's sexual. I don't care. I'm all for equality, right? And so when you see something like that, in particular with our race, with Black people in the very apparent, unfortunate unfairness that comes with just the skin tone, is very much is aggravating. Two, it's when is enough, and three, how can we overcome it? So that's just one of many examples that I have of myself being profiled.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something why I wanted to do this, because this is nothing new. It's getting old really fast and quick. And at the end of today's show, I'm going to say an amazing quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. about how the personality of America, it's two-sided, and we have not changed at all. It seems like the further we have tried to make steps forward, we have taken so many steps back, and people don't realize it because it doesn't directly affect them. People don't care until it directly affects them. And it just breaks my heart that we live in a country that's home of the free and the brave, and people still have judgments against people who protect this country so we can live freely, so we can practice religion, so we can have relationships with people that are either of the same sex or the opposite sex or whatever. It just burns me up that we are still we're still arguing over this old argument. But in reality is that's why this needs to be heard. These daily average activities and experiences that you experience need to be heard. It needs to be in people's ears, a bug in their ear every single day, so that reform can happen. And I was telling my husband here that changes and laws and rules and regulations, they're all good and well and fine. And, if they worked, we wouldn't need prisons today. We wouldn't need to have places to put people who disobey the law. So it has to change from within. It has to change from within the heart and the mindset. And unfortunately, human nature, it's just people are going to think and be who they want and think they need to be. So it just really irks me that and breaks my heart that different cultures and races still have to deal with this today. And the experiences that you share with me, like you said, there's so many, and that is so unfortunate. That even just you saying there's so many, that is so impactful that it was a concern a long time ago. And so with that, what do you think about how the military is progressing? Because I know my husband did 20 years and 29 days in the Army and retired out of there. And so with us being in the military now, what do you think the shift's going to be for us?
Like, one of the things that I've noticed too, right? Like, being young into the military career. Like, my father, he served in the Army. He did about 20 years and retired as well. Spoke with him yesterday, and he shared some stories that I wasn't even aware of. As far as me being in, so I think the type of change that I would prefer to see would be more diversity in leadership, right? Not our leadership directly, but just leadership as a whole, military-wide, right? Like, I went to my brother's base, Little Rock, Arkansas, and just curious of like what his chain of command looked like from a racial standpoint. And majority are white, right? And like, I don't have any issues with any race whatsoever. I have never had any issues with any race at any time. But you can't help but wonder what's the diversity and what's the reason for the lack thereof? Why can't we see people of color, right, in a position of power consistently? Because the majority of the time you see white people, and again, I don't have any issues with white people, but I'm saying that it makes it hard for people of color to believe that they can make it that far when they don't see it themselves. And I feel that when you go back into the history books and you just kind of look, like even from the enlisted standpoint, because I'm enlisted, and how many black or any minorities have you seen that are chiefs of the Air Force? I can think of two only, right, from the top of my head. Maybe I need to go back and look at the history books, but I believe there's only two, right? And that being said, it just kind of goes to show you, right, how difficult it is to be somebody that is of color to kind of press throughout the military. Now, my own experiences with the military, I've also faced that within the military, the discrimination as well. When I first came here, right? And within my own work center, nobody that's there currently, it was not anybody that's there currently. It's military. Everyone knows who serves in the military. It always changes. But this was in my first 2 weeks of being stationed at the base that I'm at currently. I had someone approach me, just talking, trying to get to know me, say, hey, what's your favorite genre of music? I said, it's rock music. Oh, really? Okay. This individual was white also, like an older white female, talking to me about this topic. I said, you thought it was rap, didn't you? Yeah, you did it. No, it's okay. It's okay. It really wasn't okay, but I don't want to cause these sort of issues. My first 2 weeks on station, make some noise in a way that's going to negatively impact me because I didn't know how the system operated. I didn't know anything about the chain of command. I didn't know how to report anything. I had no clue because, again, this is my first base. I'm like I'm like 30 plus years old now, but the way the military works is a lot different than the civilian world. And so at the time, I just didn't know. Now, if something like that were to happen right now, trust and believe me, I would approach it, and I wouldn't even proceed with caution. I would just completely call the person out up front. I'm at a phase in my life now where I tolerate zero tolerance. I have zero tolerance for any sort of insubordination. I have zero tolerance for racism. Anything remotely close to racism, anything to remotely close to sexism. I have zero tolerance for that place because it's not right, and I don't think it to be right. And I don't like the phrase of, you have people listen to Shut Up and Color, because that's the equivalent of what this lady said, Laura Ingram said about NBA players, in particular LeBron James, said Shut Up in Trouble. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. And if I feel that I need to say something, I will go through the correct platform, and I will make my voice heard in the most respectful, meaning way possible, and I'll make sure that I have facts to back me up.
Yeah, we need more of an asking type culture, don't we? Like, it's okay to ask questions. If you see something, say something. If you see something that's wrong, morally and ethically wrong, question that stuff. Don't, and especially when it comes to races and disrespect and stereotypes.
Yes, and bringing that up, back when my first duty station, so many years ago, there was this particular person of rank that it just seemed like they didn't like me for whatever reason. And, being in the Army, after coming out of training and everything, you're all motivated to do any and everything, And so in the Army, they have these other programs that you could earn badges and everything. And so I wanted to earn a particular badge. And so I asked my NCOs, hey, can I go do this training? But there was this one officer that was in the office. He would always, no, he can't go do this because he needs to work on this or work on that and da this, And so it was always a reason why I couldn't go do something. And then it was always, you're the only one in your job. So if you're not here, then who's going to do your job? So, okay. So when we got more people in that were in my particular job, that answer still kept coming up, no. And so I had a talk with my NCOs and I was like, look, something's just not right, because anytime I ask to go do something, I'm always being told no, but the reasons just don't add up. And it's like, what is it with this person that, that they don't like about me. And so I had this issue where one day when my NCOs weren't in the shop, he had said something to me that really bothered me, and I just couldn't hold it back anymore. So I said my 2 cents to him, and he kind of backed down after that, and it's just like, I think certain people do get that. They get that certain power, and it's like, I can do what, I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I just think that when people, especially in the military, that they need to realize that just because you're in that position, you have to think about everybody. You can't just say no to this person and not have a good reason.
So equality in making sure that if someone you feel is treating you a certain way differently, especially based off of your race or sexual orientation or anything in that nature, mm-hmm. you need to say something, and
right.
And it's okay. You can do it respectfully, right? That's what I do love about Absolutely. Serving is people mm-hmm. are very respectful in regards to that, and they should not be offended that you are questioning something that's morally and ethically correct in how to treat people. Right. And what would y'all say about what everyone needs to hear from the African American community so far as how to support you right now? What to say, what not to say? What would y'all say as a way that everyone can join together and camp to help because there's strength in numbers? What would you say? Because it's very sensitive. Nobody wants to overstep their boundary, but yet some people, they would like to help. So what would you suggest? What would you suggest on how different races can support you and help you?
Well, what I would say first and foremost, hopefully I'm not offending anybody, but we're not a charity case. And what I mean is you have to look at it. This is an issue of human rights across the board, mm-hmm. plain and simple. You have to look, no matter what your race is, think of this as, what if that was your child that happened to? How would you feel? What would you want done? That's where I believe everyone needs to begin. Because if it can happen to just one person, imagine how many other people it can happen to.
Oh, you know what? On that note, too, while we're speaking about that particular case, George Floyd, right? Clearly what happened is the equivalent of a public lynching. Yeah. Only by death by concrete and not death by a rope. Clearly, clear as day. If whomever hasn't seen what's taking place, I encourage to see it. It's not something that I would say is for the faint of heart. It's very graphic. Yeah. It's painful to watch, and it's the reality of what we've been enduring as Black people for over 400 years. Yeah. I mean, we can date this back to the Middle Passage in 1525, right, where we had about 12.5 million Africans taken from their homeland when they were forcibly shipped here, and about 2 million of them didn't even make it. Right. The living quarters, qualities of that travel was just grotesque diseases. You had to urinate and poop and let yourself free of the spot where you were at. So lots of diseases, and men and women were kept in different areas, and children were able to roam free. They had you go up to the dock and dance and do whatever the white man wanted you to do. Right now, let's fast forward to tape. Now, obviously, slavery was emancipated in America. I can't quite say the same in Africa, which is where slavery started from, which is where we got the slaves from. Where Black people sold their own people to this country. That's a whole different topic. But George Floyd, Eric Garner, who also was killed by a chokehold in 2015. We also had this inmate, Michael Sabbie, back in July 22nd, 2015. He was found dead in his cell when he was put into a chokehold. And look the videos up on YouTube. We also had Breonna Taylor, who was killed in March of 2020. Cops came to her house, murdered her. I'm not going to go into the full story. Then we had Ahmaud Arbery, who wasn't killed by police, but killed by a couple of white people who he was just kind of taking a jog, went to a house, which when you look at the footage, again, other people, white people in particular, went to that same house to go get some water. Apparently he was going there to get some water, and then he left, and then he got followed, and then he was killed. That's just the sunrise of it. Or we can even go back to Emmett Till, when he was killed by lynching, got beat to a pulp, unrecognizable by his own family in his casket. There's pictures online for anybody who wants to see the history. I think it's important to not shy away from that. So to answer the question of how can we help, how can people help that's not of our race to really help us out, one, let's not be ignorant to the idea of what's going on. I've seen on the internet there's some sort of challenge called the George Floyd challenge, and I think it's repulsive. When people the challenge is when they put their knee, and I've only seen white people pictures of this. I haven't seen anything else, and maybe there's more, but I haven't looked too deep into it. But the challenge is you put somebody on the ground, their hands behind their back, and the person has their knee on your neck. And boom, take a picture. It's called the George Floyd Challenge. And I think that's just absolutely reprehensible. And I'm not a fan of it. So, one, don't do things like that. Continue to support with actions. Maybe not going out there and actually doing a protest. I know we're in an active pandemic right now. So, if you want to protest, by all means, please just do it peacefully. That's one way to help. Also, going on airways such as this, a podcast or a place where you can get your voice heard and talk about the topic and show your support. But talking about, hey, I can help without any action is not going to help us out. And also, don't pity us as well, right? We're no strangers to this. It is a beautiful thing when you look in Europe and you see that they're supporting Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, obviously, absolutely. But in this particular moment, we're talking about Black people and what we're enduring and the help that we need. Right. So I think if you kind of just go on those, then I think we will be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, all lives matter, but they don't realize that's not the issue right now. And so you hit it right there. Black Lives Matter, because y'all are at a fight for your life and for to end what has been going on and thank you for sharing that, way over 400 years. You know, this is nothing new, and it's going to be a work in progress, but it needs to fall in the hearts and minds of people willing to make the serious change and not just fall on deaf ears, because we've been doing that and nothing's gotten done. And so what would y'all say is a way, like how have you been coping through all of this? I mean, throughout the entire your entire life. What do you tell yourself to cope with the blatancy of racism and stereotyping and profiling? What do you tell yourself on a daily basis?
Well, one, we definitely talk about it, but one of the things that I've just learned to do is I just learned to suppress it. I know that's wrong. I know it's wrong, but it's like, okay, yep, should have known, you know.
Sounds like a daily struggle then.
It is.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's a daily struggle. 'Cause, you know, I go out there every day when I have to leave the house, you know, I make sure I'm doing the right thing, you know, 'cause I don't know. Am I next?
That's so true. That's so true. You know, he hit it right on the spot too. Suppression, because I've done that as well. I was talking to my wife actually about it 2 days ago, and I don't know how far back we can go with Rodney King. Right, I was younger, obviously, so I didn't really kind of grasp what was taking place when you grow up. Like, I remember what happened in Baltimore back in 2015, and a lot of issues that you see it's kind of growing up. You suppress it, and for me, I thought, okay, you know what? Sweep it under the rug. I dress a certain way. I'm not going to wear a hoodie. I'm just going to wear polo shirts, plain shirts, no designer on it, keep a clean haircut, going to wear earrings, wear my glasses, and not look like the type of Black American that's going to go out and rob a bank, cause trouble, sell drugs, or attack people for no reason. But the truth be told, that does nothing. You will be judged in the same light as somebody who is fully tatted up all over their body, talking with a slang, with a gun in their pocket, visible, and selling drugs. So me and this person over here are no different in the eyes of those who are racist, in particular for the white America. It's no different at all. And so for me, suppression was how I dealt with it, sweeping things under the rug. Now I'm talking about it because I'm freaking tired of it. I'm just fed up. I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm not sitting down. anymore. And I think that is kind of universally what's going on. I think everybody is that this was the last straw.
Yeah.
To see this man have his knee on this man's neck with his hands in his pocket, being cocky with it as well, and not showing any sort of remorse, I think that was just the last straw.
Yeah.
And I think now people are going to talk. Me in particular, I'm not staying quiet anymore. I'm no longer sweeping it under the rug. I'm not suppressing it. I am going to continue to walk with a chip on my shoulder and continue to walk with a sense of urgency that once, can I be the next person in line? Yeah. Are they going to even get my brother? Are they going to get my father? What's going to happen with me when I go out there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always worry about my husband leaving to the base if he has an appointment, or making sure we have the insurance card in there and that his name is on it, and that way they don't assume like he stole the vehicle. I'm like, he served 20 years and 29 days in the Army, and this is how he gets treated.
Yes. And talking about that, yes, black men, you always have to make sure you have your identification on you. Always. You do not, if you're listening to this, do not leave the house without your ID. Plain and simple. I've had that experience where I forgot my ID, and personally I was like, oh, nothing's gonna happen. I'm just going to work, coming home. But of course, that day, the day I don't have my ID, I get pulled over by the cops. So I always have my ID. Even when we walk to the mailbox, which is right here on the corner, I take my ID.
On base.
Mm-hmm. I take my ID with me. And then you hit on the hoodies. After that Trayvon Martin, after his incident, I stopped wearing hoodies because it was like, oh, well, he was wearing a hoodie and da-da. First off, the hoodie had nothing to do with it. Second off, wearing a hoodie is comfortable. So if he was being comfortable and he got killed over that, and you know the story, it's like, come on, people, wake up. No matter how a person is dressed, that does not deem the actions that need to be taken.
Oh, exactly. You know, also too on that note too, when we speak about just appearance, right? With Trayvon Martin, with his appearance, I stopped wearing hoodies until recently, like this year when Kobe died, and then they were selling hoodies in Los Angeles, right in front of Staples Center. I bought that. I put that hoodie on, but I felt protected, shielded by the fact that Kobe Bryant and his daughter were on that, were represented on that hoodie. So I felt that I wasn't going to be judged a certain way. But even with that being said, I do believe appearance plays a part into it as well. But when you look at some people who were fighting for racism, right, fighting against it, trying to fight for equality, like MLK, who will oftentimes wear a suit, or Malcolm X, who oftentimes wear a suit. Sometimes you see Muhammad Ali, who was fighting for his own civil rights, as well as the equality for all America, but in particular black people, and his sport. Or Jackie Robinson, who was fighting for his sport. Serena Williams fighting for her position in her sport. You know, like this, nobody's a stranger to it. You know what I mean? This is not something that is new. Something that also shouldn't be hidden in schools. Growing up, going to school, I didn't really learn about Black history. I didn't learn about it. I really didn't learn about minority history. It was mostly what they wanted to teach you. They wanted to teach you that a lot of America was built on racism, if not all of America was built on racism. And it's an unfortunate, cruel reality that I believe is the reason why, like, a lot of films in Hollywood, they still show slave movies, they still make slave movies, not to vicariously live that lifestyle of, okay, for this time period, 4 to 6 months of filming, I get to be a slave owner and I get to tell people, call them the N-word. And I think it's deeper than that. I think it's to continue to educate people, because it's not in our school systems, which I believe it should be. Yeah. And if you're not going to learn it on your own, then there's a likelihood you're not going to learn it at all.
Exactly.
Right. And with talking about school and history, so my school, there was an African-American history class, but it was only offered, maybe, I think it was your junior or senior year, because they could not get enough people to take the class. And it's like, why is that? Is it not being put out there or what? But it should be part of the curriculum. I took the class. I learned a lot, especially when, it wasn't slavery. than civil rights. There was much more in between that happened with African Americans in history that people are not being taught about. And we all need to be educated on that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there anything that we missed today that y'all would like to share with the listeners?
There's one thing that's kind of, because I know the newer generation of millennials are all about, or mostly about social media and the internet. And so there's Drew Brees, one of our NFL players, who I have the utmost respect for what he's done for the black community, even post Katrina, what he's represented to the city of New Orleans. Right now, there are many people who are unhappy with Drew Brees, myself included, with what he said. Now, opinions are opinions, right? Perception is also reality. And I believe that, I think Maya Angelou said it best, when people show you who they are, believe them, right? Yeah. When you say something, even if you didn't intend for it to come across a certain way, you're speaking your truth. Mm-hmm. And I think with him and his views on the flag, which I remember, I used to run around with the American flag, so I don't believe that the issue is about the flag. It's I think when Colin Kaepernick took his stance during the national anthem, it wasn't by any means to belittle the United States military and men and women, ourselves included, all three of us, who either have served or continue to serve or have children that's going to serve. It's nothing about that. It's just he took the stance at that moment to show you, hey, look, this is what I want to fight for. And that was, 5 years ago? And now what he was trying to fight for is coming to light. That, okay, this is what he meant. He was trying to fight for equality, not that America, not that the flag is a flag that we don't care for, but America, this is what America. But you had mentioned it earlier too, Jason, about the Two Americas, about what MLK was talking about. I actually just listened to his I Have a Dream speech about 2 hours ago, just to kind of refresh in my mind about what his views was. And and I'm not going to steal your thunder on it as well, but pretty much on this topic, Drew Brees and then another football player, Jake, I think Fromm's his last name, when he had mentioned elite white people. Something that his comments were about. This was in a private text message between he and his ex-friend, female friend of his, that he had said that they should raise the prices up of guns so only elite white people can purchase them. Now, that was in the context of privacy, but it doesn't make it right. She released that statement because she felt that this would help, the cause and help, bring things to light and being able to kind of eradicate the problem, if not try to resolve it. So I think that's kind of what's going on right now, social media. People having these opinions about what's going on with these famous players and LeBron James taking his stance on this.
And also with social media, just beware of what is being pushed out to you, because sometimes it's lies. Yeah. You have to fact check, because they want you to get, whoever's behind all of this wants you to get riled up and to get provoked and stuff like that. So if you're looking at social media, make sure you're checking the information that's being put out there. Don't rely on social media as being your news platform either.
I just have one last thing to say. I'd say that just continue to just work hard. I think it's deeply embedded in the black community that we have to work harder than everybody else at all times. And I remember I was once told when I came here, hey, Osiris, you won't ever be able to win any sort of awards, or you won't ever be able to make noise because of your race, and then two, because you're just a mental health technician, right? That's it. There's nothing else that's going to make you be able to succeed. And so, I took that. I'm somebody that likes to overcome obstacles. Yeah. And what I would tell anybody else who, whether you're a minority or you're not, is just continue to fight for what you believe in, and do the best you can. I'm not somebody who's an award chaser, but it felt really good to win a Tesla award, and it felt really good to win a level 2 award when I was told by so many people that it was not going to happen as a minority. And so I say all that to kind of wrap up on my side. It's just to continue to just fight. Don't ever quit. And even when all of this dies down, still continue to fight, because it's not going to just go away. It's going to be suppressed again, likely, and then we have to fight again. So just keep fighting.
Hey, and I'm honored and blessed to be able to work with you, and all of those awards that you have received and all of the accolades. You have worked for them. You have worked your butt off, and you continue to work. And I sincerely appreciate what you do for us. I don't know what our clinic would be like if you weren't in our clinic, and I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much. And also, the feelings that are mutual. Our family is really grateful for your family as well and these opportunities as well. So thank you so much for having me.
Sure.
Thank you both.
Sure. And Thel, you have anything before we close up?
I just want to say thank you for allowing us to have this conversation.
I did not have to give him permission for this, folks, just as a little disclaimer out there.
No.
I wanted to talk about this. I think I'm tired of talking about it, but not doing anything about it. Because talk, as my granny used to say, does nothing but annoy people. And it annoys me. And so with that, we need to get the word out there. We need to get some more advocating out there. That way people can pull their heads out of the sand and get to work to make that change that we need.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Othel and Gabriel, for joining us for today's podcast and broadcast of Mood Food. And I leave you today with a quote from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it goes like this, and I hope that you will look this up and also to listen to his I Have a Dream speech. But here it goes. But ever since the founding fathers of our nation dreamed this dream, America has manifested a schizophrenic personality. She has been torn between two selves, a self in which she has proudly professed democracy and a self in which she has sadly practiced the antithesis of democracy. Slavery and segregation have been strange paradoxes in a nation founded on the principle that all men are created equal. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's podcast of Mood Food. And let us hear from you. Let us know the impact that this podcast has had on you today at moodfoodpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page now. It's Mood Food Podcast. And just look us up on Facebook and send us a message. Put a post up there. We would like to hear from you. And until next Wednesday, we hope everyone will continue to be out there and supporting our community and strengthen numbers. And please join us next week as well. We're going to have another special guest. He's an author of a book, Up From the Bottom, Mr. Isaac Ford. I know you'll be intrigued and interested in his story also about the topics that we discussed today. Until next time, everyone, thanks for tuning in and be safe.